Kia ora koutou. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I feel very grateful to share this space with you, and I am very much looking forward to inviting our guest on this evening to introduce you to her. Like many of you, I have been reflecting on what we're witnessing in America right now, the result of an unjust, inequitable system that has caused suffering for centuries. Black lives matter. They matter. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about how I was going to talk to you about this topic tonight. And I've been thinking a lot about how, as a Pākehā, I can use my voice to highlight the systemic racism we have in our own country, because we're not immune. We could focus on the disproportionate representation of Māori in our prisons, or in the health system, or in poverty. We should not tolerate that a person's life outcomes are affected by the colour of their skin or their race. And for those of us who are privileged to not live in fear of being judged by our race, and whose struggles in life are not then added to by the fact of our race, we must first listen, and then we must act. Because this is not something that's going away after one social media post, and it's going to take a lot of work every day. And if you are not moved by the fact that some people are judged for no other reason than the colour of their skin, then you have not been listening. So I want to focus for a moment on an area where I see public conversation becoming unstuck. And if we can address this issue, then we might just be able to take one small step forwards. And it's this. Many Kiwis out there believe in the myth that everyone has equal opportunities, so everyone should be treated equally. And I say myth because what we have is a lack of equity. It's about the disparities and disadvantages that some groups experience compared to others. We do not all share the same starting point in life. So when work is finally done to address these inequalities, many voices I see on social media perceive those types of measures as some sort of racial favoritism. But what those measures are at least trying to do, success aside for a moment, is to fill the gaps between the starting points. So just ask everybody to keep that in mind when we are actually talking about how our society actually works compared to what we think it does or how we would like it to. So your next question may be, well, how do we get to a country where people do actually have equal opportunities? And that is a question we will be discussing tonight. So without further ado, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Jessica Hammond, TOPS candidate for Ohariu.
Kia ora, Shai.
Hi, Jess. Thank you for joining me this evening.
Thanks for having me.
It is so exciting. So everybody, it's obviously not been a secret that Jessica Hammond is our candidate for Ohariu. Jess ran in that electorate in 2017 for TOP, and she came third in that election, only behind Labour and National. So I am very excited to announce to you tonight that TOP will be targeting this electorate this year. Which means, Jess, you could become the first female MP representing the Ohariu electorate in Parliament.
Yeah, the first woman ever and the first person born after 1960.
That is so amazing, but so exciting. So for those of you who don't know Jess, she is a senior policy advisor. She has worked for various government departments over 15 years, incredibly experienced, and a mother of two and a political candidate. And before we get into questions, Jess, I just want to say that You are such an integral member of our team, and I just feel so, so lucky to have your experience and your support in our team every day.
Oh, Shy, thank you. I mean, right back at you. Yeah, very, very, very happy to be part of the team. The team is amazing. Join it. Join us. The team's great.
We are so, so lucky.
So lucky.
So I'm going to jump into some questions. Now, as I've just told everybody, you'll be focused on winning the Oharu seat this year. And for those of you who don't know, that is the seat that Peter Dunn held for 33 years.
Yeah, so Peter Dunn was elected when I was 5 and stepped out finally in 2017 during my campaign. He saw me coming.
That is 100% what happened. And also for the fact that over that time, New Zealand has obviously changed significantly in many different ways. So do you think, Jess, is Oharu ready for a progressive candidate?
Oharu has probably been ready for a progressive candidate for a long time, but we just haven't managed to get one. But yeah, 2020 is the year. So yeah, I'm going to be asking for 2 ticks in Oharu and really gunning for that electorate seat. And it's possible. We can win it.
Absolutely, we can, and we will.
Yeah.
Jess, what will you... Oh, sorry, I just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, we're going to do a Q&A just shortly. I'm going to ask Jess some questions and we'll talk about some key topics, and then we will get to any of your questions. So plug anything away, any questions at all, and we will get to them. Kane will feed them through to us. So just a reminder there. So Jess, what will you be focused on most during this election for your electorate?
Yeah, I mean, look, the issue that sort of moves me on an emotional level is inequality and poverty, driven mostly by housing prices. Oharu is a relatively wealthy electorate, but we are definitely not immune to those factors. Going around door knocking, it is actually properly horrifying. Some of the I can't even call them houses. Some of the places that have numbers on them, that have addresses that are apparently people's homes. It is absolutely appalling. We have other problems, particularly in Oharu, with underdeveloped land, basically land bankers, particularly Johnsonville Mall, which should be the centre of our electorate, but is derelict. It's got a leaking roof, just like a lot of homes in New Zealand, and no one's investing in it because why would they? They can just have capital gains. No one's gonna stop them or make it worthwhile them actually treating their business like a business rather than a land bank. So those are a couple of the things that are really important in Oharu.
So it has not been immune to the issues with empty properties that we've seen in other places around New Zealand.
Absolutely.
And you obviously campaigned there in 2017, like I said. What was sort of your biggest learning from that time that will help you this year?
I loved the last election. I loved campaigning. I loved meeting people. I loved the debates. So it's going to be really exciting doing that again and having some idea what I'm doing this time, which is going to be fantastic. I suppose I learned, I learned a lot of just the ins and outs, the many tasks you need to do. I learned the incredible value of volunteers. I had an incredible volunteer group last time. I hope you will all be back, and I hope we'll have lots of new ones. Really learned that there are a lot of passionate people who are prepared to give their time for something they believe in, and that's amazing, and I'm incredibly grateful.
Yeah, and I have to say, and I don't talk about this enough, but our volunteers centrally and around the country are incredible. And I would, since we're talking about volunteers, like to remind everybody watching, whether this is your first time watching us or you've been around a while, we are almost completely run by volunteers. Everything that you see that has been created by TOP was created by our volunteers, and they are incredible. No other political party can claim that have achieved what we have with just people power. And I feel so privileged that we have we were talking earlier about how awesome our team is. Our team is freaking awesome.
And I think that most of us enjoy it, right? Like the candidates are volunteers as well. None of us get paid, you know, and I think, I think we're passionate about it and we love doing it. And we'd love as many people as possible to join the team. And there is actually something for everyone, whether you like being around people or hate being around people, whether you have a whole bunch of skills or not so many skills, there is something for you to do that will make a difference.
100%. Absolutely. And it's not too late to reach out and get involved. I'm just going to do a little plug on that now. So if you're keen, reach out. Okay, Jess, I'm going to move to ask you about something that we commonly get asked. I'd love to hear your take on this. How do you typically tackle the wasted vote argument?
Yeah, we get that a lot. It's frustrating to me. So look, there are a few different ways you can think about a wasted vote. One is like, how can it be a waste to exercise your democratic vote, your right to show what you believe in? And it has made such a difference to us that 2.4% of voters in 2017 voted for TOP. I mean, it gave us a lot of confidence, and it also affected our funding this time. And it means that we can say, hey, all we need is everyone who voted for us last time, just convince one other person and we're in, and that's fine. Yeah. That's amazing. But we also have, there are a lot of people, thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people who said, I would have voted for TOP, but I was worried you wouldn't get in. And it's like, we'll just do, and then we will. But also, I get it. People are strategic and they are worried. So one of the benefits of targeting an electorate, I believe TOP is going to get well over 5% anyway. The message is getting out and our support is growing. But if we get an electorate MP in, then every single vote we get counts, and the wasted vote problem just disappears. So that's one of the reasons that the How Do You campaign is so important.
Yeah, 100%. And if anybody is watching right now and you are new to this MMP world, everybody gets 2 ticks, 1 tick for the party, 1 tick for your candidate in your local area to represent you. The party vote matters more because that determines the overall proportion of representation your party has in Parliament. But to even get in the door, you have to either win an electorate seat, which for us is Jeff, or get over the 5% threshold. So just as a little sidebar, because in case anybody watching.
And I have some videos coming to explain that, because we do not have civics education in this country. So a lot of people very understandably do not know how our voting system works.
Totally.
So that is on its way.
Yeah. Oh, good. I hope you use Lego.
I will.
Yes. Okay. I just sticking with the wasted vote thing for a moment, and your electorate specifically. Obviously, your key opponents are going to be, unsurprisingly, a Labour candidate and a National candidate.
Yeah.
So maybe tell us a little bit about what a wasted vote is.
So at the moment, we have 2 sitting MPs who are the National and Labour candidates. I believe they will be the National and Labour candidates again. And they are going to almost certainly get into Parliament on the list, whether anyone gives them their electorate vote or not. So giving those 2 candidates your electorate vote in Oahu is genuinely a wasted vote, because those people are going to get into Parliament anyway. And people who are list MPs in an electorate can still do some of the work of electorate MPs. They can still advocate for people. So Oahu it's a little unfair on the rest of the country, but Oahu could have 3 MPs in Parliament all working for the constituents. So why would you bother voting for the other 2? There's just don't vote for me instead. It's, it's what all the best people do.
Agree. So maybe if we move on now and just chat a little bit about TOP generally,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think sets TOP apart from other political parties?
Oh, look, I mean, this is the thing. TOP has a really different approach to policy, which is and to evidence, which is that we will do what we think is going to work and what we know is going to work based on what's worked overseas, based on the evidence. We will follow that, even if it's not the most popular thing to do. And this is why I am a candidate for TOP and not a candidate for any other party, because I am not capable of standing there with my hand on my heart saying, this, am I allowed to swear a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, it's
This
after 8.
shitty policy or that shitty policy is going to make a difference when I know damn well it's not going to. And I see candidates and members of parliament for other parties standing there saying that this is going to fix our housing crisis, this is going to fix poverty, this is going to fix the environment, when these are smart people. Either there's massive amounts of self-delusion going on there, or they're just being completely cynical and telling people what they think they want to hear. And with TOP, we talk about things like taxing the family home. We talk about things that might be hard to hear for the people who vote in the biggest numbers, which is the wealthiest, oldest, and whitest people in the country. And we are not afraid of saying that. And that is I could not be a candidate if we were any other way. We mean what we say, and with the things we say make sense and make a difference.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jess. I totally agree. And I think it is probably one of the reasons why people lose their faith in politicians all the time, because they talk this big game and they pretend that they have these policies, but the evidence do not support the policies, or their policies are PR slogans with not actual plans, zero research, or they just put their hand in the sky and say, feels like this, that's going to be my policy, which is just an absolute joke of an approach to even create policy, let alone to stand up and say, here's your solution, folks, when it's freaking not.
Oh, yeah, I would absolutely encourage people, if they want a laugh, to look at, sorry, this is a little mean, but if they look at the actual manifestos from 2017 for some parties and what constitutes a policy, it is honestly, it is quite laughable. And Parliament and elections are full of band-aid type promises, but TOP, we want to fix the fundamentals. Other people can carry on. Sometimes you need a band-aid because you've got a paper cut, and that's great. I am pleased there are other people, who can offer their band-aids, but we are interested in fixing the fundamentals. And if we don't, if someone's arm's been bloody chopped off or something, all the band-aids in the world are not going to make any difference. We need to actually fix the fundamentals. I mean, this is the thing when people say, I'm worried that that the red team won't get in, so I have to vote for the red team, or I'm worried the blue team won't get in, so I have to vote for the blue team. It's like, seriously, guys, look at what they've done for decades. And what do you really want out of the next 3 years and out of the future for yourself, for your family, for your whānau, for your country? Do you really want things just to be slightly less terrible for some people over the next 3 years than they were for the last 3 years? Is that the height of your ambition? Or do you want more? Do you want this country to be what it could be? Do you want to, lift people out of the desperate situations you're in? Do you want our children and our grandchildren to be able to have a good future, to have security, to have equality of opportunity, to be able to swim in rivers? Like, we can do these things. None of this is a mystery. We know how to do it. the other parties in Parliament know how to do it because they have access to the same information and the same evidence as us. What do you want? Like, do you want to make a difference? Because we can do it and we know how to do it. The other thing is, TOP is in the strategic position, being in the centre, that we are able to be monarch makers and actually have a real outsized influence on Parliament. This is all possible. We can achieve things. We just need your help.
Yeah, it is absolutely possible. And it's a fundamental mind shift for so many people who have perhaps always been in a blue team or have perhaps always been in the red team, to acknowledge, to look at the information that is out there that shows the statistics have been steadily getting worse, whether we've had a red team in power or a blue team in power. And I think that is fundamentally difficult for people, and it's not palatable for people to accept because we are so used to being quite tribal.
Oh, and I totally get that, because I used to be tribal as well, and I do really understand that the language of one team or the other will resonate with some people really differently. And I know that there are some MPs whose language really speaks to me, and language matters and words matter, but what really matters is what people do. And we can see what people do because we have decades of track record. And it's not that they're bad people. I think almost everyone in Parliament goes in with really good intentions. But if you're someone who's trying to get more than 50% of the vote, then you can't afford to offend anybody, which means you can't afford to do anything interesting or fundamental or progressive. You can't really afford to, I think of it as like if you're trying to feed a family of you're trying to feed 10 fussy children, and one kid's allergic to this. My kids have allergies. This is not, one kid's allergic to this, one kid doesn't like this, one kid can't have that, and you end up is feeding everybody white bread. This is just what we get from red and blue, is just we can have white bread or we can have white rice, and those are your only choices. TOP brings the spice, baby.
God, that's a good analogy, Jess. Bloody hell, that is just so good. I can't believe I just haven't heard that before, but you are absolutely right. And I think that speaks to why we don't see any real change, because they're too scared to make the big calls, especially when we're talking about things like our property tax that people freak out about. But at the end of the day, it answers the call to make housing more affordable. And if people genuinely want that as an outcome, this is the solution to achieve what you are asking for.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't make everybody happy. But from when you were just saying that, Jess, it made me think, yes, we will piss some people off. But the frustrating thing is that actually overall, all of our policies will end up making our whole society better off.
Oh, yeah. And when I say piss people off, I mean in the kind of, the focus group soundbite instinctive reaction way. I firmly believe that if people are, if we can explain ourselves well enough, and that is on us to do it, but if we can explain ourselves well enough, then people will see that the solutions we're proposing are great for the country. And you can be the wealthiest person in the whole country, with masses of property and doing great, but you don't want to live in a country where there is a lot of inequality, where there's a lot of suffering, where the environment's being degraded. We are actually all in this together, and what is good for the people who are worst off in our country is good for everybody, even the wealthiest, most privileged person out there.
150%. So I kind of want to move on to chatting about your Lego videos. Now, if you are watching this at home right now, wherever you are, and you have not seen any of Jess's Lego videos, please do yourself a favor and go onto her Facebook page after this, because Jess has started a series of videos talking about various aspects of our tax and welfare system. And I mean, over 100,000 people, Jess, have now seen your videos, have engaged with them. So that's a lot of community engagement and feedback for you to pick up on. And I know that you've already told me before that some people have shared their stories with you. What are sort of some key themes that you have seen from that feedback?
It's been really humbling, and it's, oh, does that sound cheesy? Too bad. I do feel really honored when someone messages me and says that this is my experience and this is what I've been going through, and what you've said spoke to me, and I feel like, I feel like you can see what's happening for me. I mean, that's amazing. But the real insight out of particularly the video I did about abatement rates is that it seems like New Zealand is divided into people who say, yes, this is what I've been saying, like this is my life, and people saying, I had no idea it was like this, and who are really, really, really shocked.
And so just quickly for people, if they're watching this for the first time, hearing abatement rate for the first time, how would you explain generally the concept of that, and maybe explaining the poverty trap?
Yeah, so abatement rates just means when you get a benefit, you get a certain chunk of money. And when you start earning, the amount of money you get from your benefit goes down while the amount you're earning from your job goes up. And for a lot of people on benefits, the amount you're earning from your job can be as much as you're losing from your benefit. So there is no incentive to work for a lot of people who are on benefits. And this is the poverty trap, because if you're someone who's sitting there, particularly, sole parents have it particularly badly. If you're someone who's sitting there going, I can either look after my child and we're living in poverty, and that sucks, or I can work an extra 20 hours for no gain and suddenly have to find childcare and have to do all that juggling. It's it's a no-brainer for a lot of people. It's not just a no-brainer. It's effectively impossible for some people to start working under our current system. Now, if we changed our system from an abatement-based system to an unconditional basic income means that there is a certain entitlement that you get every week, and it doesn't matter how much you earn, it doesn't matter who you live with, it doesn't matter who you're sleeping with. You have a right to that money, and every dollar you earn, I mean, you're taxed and things, but every dollar you earn is your money. So you are incentivized to work in a way people on our current benefits just aren't. So people who say, I don't like beneficiaries, they should just get a job. Well, you should vote for a UBI. And if you're someone who's on a benefit and you hate the system, you should vote for a UBI. It's a win-win. It is a no-brainer. And sorry, I'm on a rant now, but pretty much everyone you talk to when you explain a universal basic income, the worst objection they can come up with is, I don't know how we can afford it. It sounds great, it sounds amazing, but I don't know how we can afford it. Well, we have shown you how you can afford it. TOP has worked out how to afford it. So that objection's gone. And because we all agree that it's absolutely bloody wonderful, let's just do it. It's
100%, Jess. And that gone to the people that you were talking about before who just had no idea that the system worked like that. And I think there's a reason for that. It's not talked about, it's not explained. So many people don't have an understanding that you can be on a benefit and work. And I think Kane's actually got the graph, so hopefully you'll still be able to hear me if he is able to get that graph on the screen. But it is from the Productivity Commission, I believe this one, and it shows you the big gap between 20 hours along the bottom and 36 hours. If you were a single beneficiary with children, you'd be working that entire block of hours effectively for free.
Yeah.
If you do not think that is messed up,
then you're not paying attention.
I can't, then you're not paying attention. Thanks, Kane. Appreciate that. That was helpful. Hopefully you guys could still hear me when I was chatting about that graph. Let us know any issues. Our welfare system doesn't work. In short, to summarize, it is broken, and it is the reason why so many people are stuck in this world of poverty.
Yeah, that's right.
And what I find so frustrating, Jess, and I know you share this frustration with me, we know it's broken. People in government know it's broken, and we know what to do to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, exactly. And it's the same with so many of our problems. And look, there are a lot of people who are, because of COVID, who are discovering firsthand, tragically, what the benefit system is like. Or at least they would be had the government not instituted two different kinds of benefits, one for the people who have had jobs and one for the people who have been beneficiaries for other sorts of reasons. But yeah, I think when people understand what the benefit system is really like, they are really outraged and want change, and we know how to change it. So let's just do it already.
Let's just definitely make that change. So, Jess, at the start of this, of my spiel tonight, I was talking about systemic racism that we have in New Zealand and the disparities between different communities, which, as you well know, particularly prevalent when we're comparing Pākehā and Māori communities. So I wanted to touch on now, before we go on to if there are any questions from people watching, to kind of explain how TOP's policies address and will help us get to a world where we do actually have equality of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, TOP's policies are individually beautiful and amazing, and they work. And getting one of them in would be a massive advance on the situation we're in now. But if you look at the whole suite of them, there is so much that addresses every kind of sort of unfair, well, not every kind, we haven't done a policy on every issue, but, you know, all the major, biggest sources of injustice and unfairness in our society. So whether you're talking about universal basic income, reforming our benefit system, our tax system, which addresses the housing crisis, rental reform so that people can have secure, healthy tenancies so that renters are no longer second-class citizens, our prison reform, because our justice system is messed up and we have far too many Māori incarcerated, and that is not some sort of unfortunate accident of fate. That is a decision that governments have made with their policies that incarcerate people. Our drug policy, the whole suite of them address all these kinds of injustice, including racial or ethnic injustice. Not to mention honouring the treaty, our democracy reset policy, water rights, the whole shebang. I just love the policies.
Yeah, I think a lot of, well, I don't know, actually, a lot of people are thinking this, but I've seen it a lot on social media anyway, that there isn't maybe a full appreciation yet of how significant these policies are to get us towards real structural change.
Yeah, that's right. And again, it's like we can tinker all we like. Our governments are very, very good at tinkering, but unless we address these structural changes, we're just I don't know, we're just pouring water into a sieve. We need to plug all those holes. We need to fix the foundations. House is sinking.
Totally. Yeah. Let's stop dealing with all the band-aids.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Now with that, I can see that a question has popped up. So we will start answering your question.
Can I say one thing, Shai?
Yeah.
I'm aware, if anyone thinks it's weird, that I'm getting darker and darker. I don't know if you've noticed that, but I have this amazing lighting setup. Had you noticed that?
Yeah.
But it's like on a battery thing, and it's obviously just running out. So I can either go and plug it in, or I can just get progressively darker. You can see me well enough, eh?
How we go. You're good for now.
You let me know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay. The first question I can see, Kane, thank you, is from Cody. How does TOP intend to win the electorate over Labour or National?
How do we intend to win, or how do you? I'm sure he means. Look, the thing is, in the last election, I had 3 months and $3,000, and I was an absolute nobody, and I still came in third place. So, I've got a lot of things going for me this time that we didn't have last time. Last time, also, really, I wasn't. I was asking people for two ticks, but we didn't have a strategy to try and win the electorate. And this time, so, this is what we achieved without really even kind of not really trying. So what's going to happen if we if we actually put our minds to it? Collectively, because this is not about me. This is a top strategy. So, I think we have every chance of winning it. I think I'd be a really effective electorate MP. Not to mention an effective parliamentarian. And I think if I have your help, you people out there, if you live in Ohariu, if you know anyone who lives in Ohariu, or if you can volunteer in Ohariu, or if you can volunteer remotely for Ohariu, with your help, then we can do this. It's actually, winning 5% takes about 120,000 people. Winning Ohariu probably takes about 9,000. It's achievable if we put our minds to it and work together.
Yeah. And as Jess said, it is a team effort. Top is targeting this electorate. So it is not Jess out on her own. It is Jess plus our army of supporters and volunteers. And anyone else of you who joins us, like Jess just said.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay. I think we've got another question lined up. Okay, Cody, should the SPCA get more funding? They run 40 centres and helping over 40,000 animals, but only receive under 1% of government funding. Do they need more funding for the service they provide, New Zealand? It's a difficult question, Cody. I mean, we don't have a specific policy in this space, but animal rights is an area that has been coming up, and it is an area that we have been in the background turning our mind to lately.
Yeah, I'd like to, Cody, feel free to get in touch. I'm not sure what you mean by receive under 1% of government funding. I'd like to hear your answer to the question. They definitely provide a really valuable service. Get in touch, let us know what you think.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm assuming of SPCA's funding, 1% of it is government and 99% is, I'm assuming that's what you mean, Cody. Sorry, I'm not quite sure if that's what you're referring to. That's my understanding of your question. And so they rely 99% then on public donations, which is significant. And any organisation like that, any community group like that, will have taken a hit, I'm sure, especially through COVID, when that is your funding model, and you're quite vulnerable to these shifts when society takes hits. So do you. So it's a really good question, Cody, and something, as I say, there is work going on, in the background, looking at animal welfare and animal rights in general. So I would say SPCA probably falls into that piece of work. Sorry, I can't answer that more specifically, but work in progress.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Next question we have from Rachel. Do you have any other Legos other than humans and elves?
I have dragons. Oh, geez. I think I have some like vehicles and stuff. If there's anything, very open to Lego video ideas involving dragons and vehicles. And and hey, when you've got Lego, you can build anything with them. So yeah.
I'm trying to think what you could do with the dragon.
I have actually made, and this is definitely going to feature. Oh, I'm such a nerd. I have actually built a Lego debating chamber, that a parliament debating chamber that has all the color codes for all of the seats. So I'm going to be using that in future videos to explain how MMP works and strategic voting and things like that.
I love that. I'm so excited. So good. Okay. All right, next question. we have. David, what is TOP's view on religion and vaccinations?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I don't think TOP has a view on religion apart from the fact that, you know, freedom of religion is you know, important. And yeah, and on vaccinations, I mean, we have talked about this a little bit. You know, the evidence is really clear for most vaccinations that they work. The evidence for you know, and you know, they've made a huge difference to life expectancies. I believe the evidence and the ethics on compulsory vaccinations both favour not doing that, favour taking an education approach. Shai, do you have anything else on that?
Yeah, I mean, echo everything you just said, definitely. In terms of religion, and you're asking a political party, so we live in a society where there is separation between state and religion, and I think that should always be the case. And with exactly what Jess just said, always respect and freedom for everyone to practice their own religions in this country. And yeah, I don't have anything further to add on vaccinations. The science is very clear on that. Okay, let's carry on. Okay, Jamie, considering you were a candidate from 2017, TOP has gone under a lot of change since then. What's changed for you and what's kept you on board? Oh, I like this question, Jamie.
That's a really interesting question because I did step away from TOP at the end of 2017. And TOP has undergone a lot of changes. Basically, we've kept all of the great stuff and brought in even more great stuff, and maybe discarded some of the stuff that wasn't really serving us. So after I stepped away, I, you know, took some convincing by talking to a lot of people to see that all the great stuff was still there, which is the amazing policy and the amazing people and the amazing volunteers and the values and the approach, and that the other stuff has all changed for the better. I'm really excited with the place we are in right now.
That's so nice to hear. I think that might be all the questions as it came. So that might be a good. Oh no, sorry, just kidding, everyone. Just kidding. Sorry, he's got a very long one coming up, so we'll just wait for that to pop up on the screen. Okay, so this is a very long question, everybody. So it's not going to come up underneath. I'm just going to read it from Kane's little screen he has here. Okay, against expectations, TOP becomes kingmaker at the next general election. Both National and Labour are courting TOP to form a government, and you've been nominated as TOP's lead negotiator. National has offered to adopt TOP's entire tax policy immediately if you form a government with them, but on the condition that TOP will have no other influence in government other than cleaning National MPs' offices on a daily basis. Labour entirely rejects TOP's tax policy, but is willing to give Jeff the Minister of Finance role and appoint him Deputy Prime Minister. Oh, this is such a long question, guys. Bear with me. While you are offered a role as the Minister of Housing and Urban Development. TOP has discussed this internally and is at a stalemate. Oh, this is such a good question. Your decision will determine which offer TOP will take. What is your decision? I assume this is for you, Jess.
Yeah. So to recap, we're in the monarch maker position. We're dealing with National and Labour. National says we can have the entire tax policy and that's it, and we have to clean their filthy offices. Labour says Jeff will be the Minister of Finance and Deputy Prime Minister, and I'll be the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, and it's up to me. The pressure. That's a really good and really hard question. I know. And both of those are really good offers that would make a big difference to New Zealand. The thing is, though, if you are a minister with no policy promises from the government, I'm assuming that means Jeff and I are in cabinet, so we have a voice in cabinet, but we're going to be outnumbered by the other cabinet ministers. I feel like National's deal is probably one that is going to make a bigger difference, as much as I don't want to clean those offices, is probably going to make a bigger difference to the country than Labour's one.
And let's put it in context as an example. And I know I get a lot of hate if I say anything bad about the Green Party, but bear with me for a moment. Yeah, leave that there if you can, Kane. Thank you. That's really helpful. So if, for example, in the current world that we live in, we have a Green Party who have ministers, and you might argue very little to show for it. Some would say, I'm not trying to get into a discussion, don't go crazy on the comments, bear with me for a moment. But the second example here is kind of Green's scenario, in my opinion, because it comes with titles, it comes with figureheads, but it doesn't come with outcomes. And what we keep saying here at top is that outcomes matter. And if you can't achieve change, you have not achieved your purpose.
That's exactly right. I don't think any of us wants to go in there for titles and to warm seats. Like, we're in there to make a difference to the country. And just in case anyone is unclear on what getting the entire tax policy means, that basically means we solve the housing crisis, and the housing crisis is the major driver of poverty in New Zealand. So this is not some sort of fringy, nerdy, tweaking of tax policy. This is a fundamental change to our tax system that, fixes, makes a huge dent in the housing crisis, makes a huge dent in poverty, and changes the incentives for our investments so that people will invest in businesses and research and development and in savings. Those things are all areas where we really underperform because of our our skewed tax system. So getting that policy makes a massive difference socially and economically to New Zealand. That's not small potatoes.
Absolutely. That is a fundamental shift and would help us move away from our obsession over housing and shoving all of our money into housing debt, when we could instead incentivize people to be investing in our businesses and actually grow our economy and support our small and medium-sized businesses much better than we are now. So yeah. That it would be huge. Yeah, that would be huge. Thank you for that very long and thought-out hypothetical world. Appreciate that.
Hypothetical, okay. But possibly a premonition. Who knows?
Yeah, cool. Cool. All right. That was from Michael, that previous question, by the way. Thanks, Kane. Okay, there is another one from Andrew. Why do you think we have measles and rheumatic fever epidemics? How do we fix our primary health outcomes?
Oh, man.
Well, the measles one.
Yeah. Do you want to take measles and I'll take rheumatic fever?
Yeah. A big thing that we have seen, the measles, and you might be referring to what we saw towards the end of last year, and hugely, we have seen over the recent years a decline in vaccination numbers. And when that happens, and I'm not a scientist and I'm not pretending to be one right now, but from a very simple level, when we see lower levels of vaccinations, herd immunity reduces and you have higher rates of measles, and it is a highly infectious disease, and they increase. And that is what we saw, sadly, at the end of last year, and over 80 deaths in Jess, was it Samoa?
Yeah, Samoa had a awful situation.
Horrific.
Horrific, yeah. Yeah. And rheumatic fever, I mean, rheumatic fever happens when you get strep throat and it's untreated, leads to scarlet fever and rheumatic fever, and that causes heart defects, and that causes people to die early. And that is a big factor in particularly Māori and Pacific dying early, and it thrives in overcrowded, crappy housing. And it is not it's a horrible disease anywhere, but it is a ridiculous disease to have in a country like New Zealand. We do not need to have it here. These are policy decisions to have people living in these shitty houses in poverty with children who are far more likely to die than my children because of the circumstances of their birth and because of policy decisions that our governments have been making over decades. And we should be absolutely outraged. It is disgraceful.
Yeah, absolutely. It is disgraceful. There's no nice way to phrase it. There's no, when we know what the solutions are to problems, it is so frustrating that those solutions are not then turned into policy action.
Yeah. And when I think about parents just like me with children just like mine having to worry that they, because they had it when they're kids, or their children are going to die of a completely preventable illness long before their time, it is, if you are not like thoroughly upset and outraged by this, you are not paying attention. It's yeah, I don't know, it's just a disgrace. It's hideous.
So yeah, there's a lot of work. Yeah, a lot of work to be done. And when it comes to primary health, something that we talked about a few weeks back when we were talking about the budget, that we have seen a lot of further funding that has gone to our hospitals, and they needed that, and don't get me wrong at all, but we would have liked to have seen a lot more funding being directed to our primary health providers as well, as a preventative approach rather than dealing with the illness after the fact.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is good. All right, next question. Josh, Jeff, would you pat roads again? Would you pat roads again for a new video?
Well, Josh, my question is, will you vote for me if I do? And if so, absolutely. I'll pat any road you like. And that was the message of the video. So if anyone hasn't seen that, I might do it. I'll repost that video. Yes, I'll pat roads again. I will mush gravel. The point of that video was that we have a lot of pork barrel politics in New Zealand, which is basically where people say, people promise a flashy, ribbon-cutty sort of big infrastructure project or something along those lines in an area where they want to get voted in, or to shore up their base, or to make sure a particular person gets elected. It is corrupt and it is disgusting, and we have designed our transport system in particular because it is so ripe for pork barreling. We designed the system so this wouldn't happen, and successive governments, red and blue, have undermined the system because they like pork barreling. They like bribing you. And these are the kinds of, systems that someone, if politicians make a decision to limit their own power, for instance, by, making the Reserve Bank independent or making the land transport funding independent, if they are doing that, then they know it was bloody bad before. And so we need to pay attention when people start undermining these institutional arrangements that protect us from corruption and undermine our democracy. So I know it was a kind of silly video, but it's a bloody serious issue.
It is, and you're right. The NZTA is designed and intended to be independent, and that has just not happened because our politicians have found loopholes effectively.
Just look out at the shovel-ready, just keep your eyes open for shovel-ready projects in your area and for what's going to come out of the Provincial Growth Fund. and what's going to come out of the big pot of COVID money, and just, ask questions about that. And you don't have to give in to bribes, basically.
Democracy first, people. Okay, next one is from, no, don't know who's from. Jessica, how can we help your campaign if we are not in or near Ohariu?
I love this question. This is brilliant. So you can get in touch with, well, basically, if you get in touch with anybody at top, you can get in touch with me. You can join the team. There are many, many things you can do. You can, you can become a member, and you can sign up as a volunteer, and then, this will get you onto mailing lists and join our members lounge, which anyone who's a member is entitled to do, which is a Facebook group where we talk about, we can put out calls to action. Donating to that campaign is really, really important. If you can host a hoarding, like a sign on your fence, or anyone in Ohariu, or indeed anywhere in the country who can host a top fence, sign on their fence, that is amazing. We're going to need people to deliver flyers. We're going to need people to knock on doors. I need people to come to events with me and all the other candidates to take photos. There are many, many jobs you can do from anywhere in the country. We do need your help. So please get in touch with me or anyone else in the top whānau.
And if anybody is watching this and you do want to support us, the reality is that we are competing against parties who have huge donors, and we don't. In 2019, TOP's average donation was $25. And right now we need financial support as well. And literally every dollar makes a difference, even if it's literally $1. So please consider donating. Go on to TOP's Facebook page, and if you want to donate us the value of your coffee for the day or for the week, that would be amazing. So,
and if you don't have any spare money, which a lot of people don't at the moment, and you support TOP, please, this is just really important, tell someone else to check us out, to check out their local candidate, tell them that you support us, because if we don't have the money to do the big flashy outreach, we just need people to tell other people about us. Talk TOP as much as you can.
Yeah, 100%. Now everybody, I've seen that we're coming up to nearly an hour, and I know that there are more questions, and I'm sorry that we have run out of time to get to all of them. Jess and I will talk about how we can get through those. So thank you so much for engaging with us and for being here. And Jess, I always learn something new whenever I talk to you. Thank you so much. I just, every single time you have new gems that I just love hearing, and I put that in my little bank of knowledge, and but it's just awesome. I love speaking with you.
Thank you, Shai. I think you're wonderful and amazing, and thank you everyone watching, and thank you Kane and Erin for all the work you're doing in the background. Brilliant team, brilliant people, brilliant supporters.
So much love, and most of all to all of you watching right now, thank you for your time. It is so precious and we value it so much. Thank you for being open, for listening to us, and for being here. So take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you soon.
Ka kite.